Did you know that one of the most powerful tools for memorization is the use of imagery? This has been known since ancient times, yet most of us don't appreciate or use this very, very powerful memorization technique. If you don't believe that it works, try the following demonstration on one of your friends. Give them a list of pairs of words like mug, pen, dog, phone, book, candy, magnet, pouch, and so on. Ask them to try to memorize this list of word pairs by simply repeating them over and over and over, like mug pen, mug pen, mug pen, mug pen. Then give them a test where you give them the first word and see for how many of them they can recall the second word that had gone with it in that list that you had given them. Then have them try another method. Give them a new list of word pairs and ask them this time instead use what we call interactive imagery. For this, they would form an image of the two items interacting in some vivid way within their mind's eye. So for example, if the word pair is mug pen, maybe they would visualize an image of a mug with a pen sticking out of it and ink splattered all over the inside and the outside of the mug. And they should use just this technique now for this new list and no other technique, and then test them with the same type of memory test. See how many words they can recall. Well, you'll find that people can recall dramatically more of the words when they use imagery as a technique than when they use simple repetition. And it's also interesting that people usually don't see this coming. When my colleagues and I do this demonstration among our students in our classes, the students are often shocked at how many they remember when they use imagery compared to when they use repetition. They just don't see it coming. It really just doesn't feel like it's going to have the impact that it does have. So how can you apply this technique to your own studying? Well, there are a few different ways that you can apply this very specifically. One way is a specific technique that we call the keyword mnemonic. And this particular technique involves the use of imagery for memorization. It's particularly effective for memorizing vocabulary words. And so an example might be, maybe you're trying to remember that the Spanish word pato means duck. What you would do with the keyword mnemonic is you would first think of a word that you do know and understand that sounds like this word. So the word pato sort of sounds like the English word pot. Then what you do is try to connect this using interactive visual imagery in your mind to the actual meaning of the word. So again, the meaning of the word pato is duck, so you'd want your image to include a duck. But you also want the image to include this easy to think of, similar sounding word like pot. So perhaps what you do in this situation is you form an image of a duck with a pot on its head to connect duck with pato using imagery. Another specific imagery technique is something called the method of loci. This technique is great for memorizing things that need to be ordered within a sequence. For this technique, what you do is you create a mental walkthrough in your mind's eye of a route that you take on a routine basis. It could be as simple as the route you would take from approaching the front door of your home to going through that door to wandering through your house. It can be that simple. What you do then is through interactive imagery, you attach images of the things that you need to remember in sequence along that route. So for example, let's say I want to remember the talking points for a talk that I'm giving on a memory process called familiarity. I might start out with visualizing an approach to my front door, and I attach an image of a woman in a white shirt on a skateboard whizzing past me on the left and then crashing into the front door. This is my cue to remind me during this visualization that I want to start off my talk with an example of an experience that I had years ago where a woman whizzed past me in a white shirt on a skateboard and I felt as if I knew her from somewhere. I had this intense feeling of familiarity, like I'd been through this situation before. Then, in my mind's eye, I walk through the front door and into the foyer. And in the foyer is an image of a chalkboard with mathematical formulas written all over it. That visualization is my cue to remember my next talking point, which is to introduce a class of mathematical models of the process of familiarity that I'd introduced with the story of the woman on the skateboard. Then I navigate through this image of my home and into the living room. And in the living room, there's a vase, broken, with chips and bits all over the floor, in a different assortment of colors and in a different assortment of shapes. And these different colors and shapes all over the floor are meant to be the cue to remind me to now introduce the role of fragments of information, or what we might call features, in mathematical models of familiarity. And so on. I can remember my various talking points in sequence for this talk through the use of the visualization strategy used in the method of Loci. So remember, forming interactive images in your mind's eye can help you to remember information very effectively. It won't feel like it's going to have the strong impact that it will have, so be sure to try it enough times to see for yourself that it actually does work.